Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to a new episode from our Orchid Care for Beginners and the last episode of the year. Actually, this is the last video on my channel of 2024. So before we start, let me just say thank you so much for being with me for almost 12 years at this point on my channel. I cannot believe time flies so fast. I just hope to see you guys on my channel next year as well. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful new year. So today, because it's a special episode, we're just gonna go through some, I guess, thoughts of importance when it comes to growing orchids that I've accumulated over these 12 years plus, because I actually did grow orchids before YouTube. And I'm gonna make this more of a good practices, let's say, for beginners in growing orchids. But you know what? I feel not a lot of people talk about. We all talk about, oh, orchids need humidity, which I never bother with. Orchids need this amount of light or this temperature and so on, but we don't talk about how to actually live with orchids, enjoy them, make them part of our life, and enrich our life, because in the end, that's what my channel is about, enriching our lives with orchids, not just having them in the house and if they die, they die. You know, I think we all in this community regard them as more than just a plant in a house, right? So we're gonna talk about that today. You're gonna have chapters down below. And before we start, this video, together with this entire series for 5 years now, or 6, I don't even remember, is of course sponsored by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchids, from potting mixes to pots, accessories, fertilizers, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also other houseplants as well. And what I love most about rePotme, and the reason why they have been pretty much my only long-term sponsor and why I keep accepting this sponsorship, is because I do absolutely believe in them, and they have been around before my channel. They're old on the market and they do have amazing quality products, which we will talk a little bit about today as well. But anyway, hopefully we're gonna be renewed next year as well. We're gonna see, but I'm so very grateful, and I wish to extend a thank you to rePotme as well for sponsoring the series, for keeping me motivated to do the series, for keeping it going. It is the most popular series on my channel, and I feel like I did a decent job with it. And I really hope I helped a lot of beginners with this entire series for the past 5 or 6 years. Right, let's not get emotional and let us start. Aren't we surprised that I have a list? Yes, I don't want to forget anything, which sometimes happens. I wish I would have the mind that I had 20 years ago, but I don't. Right, so let us start. The most important lessons that I would tell myself as a beginner, and you guys as beginners as well, is to actually plan for long term. Now, here's the thing. Orchids are very, very different than other houseplants. Have we noticed? I think everybody in my community, if you ask them, they will tell you that orchids have become such a major part of their lives because they're just different from other houseplants. Let me know in the comments if you agree. I was never a super avid plant collector until I met orchids. And that's because orchids are just like a pet. They develop, they evolve, and they reward you with their wonderful blooms. And the care for them is not, this is how you need to water and this is where you need to place your orchid. It's that too, but it's also long-term. It's also planning where your orchid will live, planning a little home for it, and making sure that in each step of their development, you are providing what they need, and they actually don't need as much as a dog, let's say, or a bird. Birds, oh my gosh, I have birds. Much easier than birds. But they are kind of like a pet that doesn't demand way too much. However, if you allow them, and if you start with this mentality of planning for a long term, you will actually have a long-term companion with an orchid. As I was saying, it's so bizarre. Unlike other plants, these can actually be a house pet that doesn't demand too much. You have to be a little patient because obviously they don't grow as fast, but that's what makes it interesting. So rule number 1, don't buy an orchid with the intent of keeping it a few months and then who knows, you're gonna buy a new one and that's how you're gonna keep orchids, by constantly buying new ones. No, plan for long term. It is a long-term commitment if you make it so, and if you put in a little bit of work, it will reward you years and years. I have orchids that are 12 years old at this point and they're still going, and they will keep going. So, number 1, long term is the key. Oh, my thing is not straight and it will bother me when I edit the video. Alrighty, so point number 2. Start safe and adapt as you go. At this point, after so many years, I have over 2,000 videos, and there are so many other YouTube channels, each with their own type of growing or style of growth, and that's all fine. And in time, you know, we all develop our own style of growing, and it's really dependent on our environment. But the thing is, when you're at the beginning and you see all of these videos, especially on social media, you know, the 30-second videos that don't tell you much, but they show you like this and you kind of have to draw your own conclusions, that's not the way to go at the beginning. The way to go is the safe, tried and tested method, which I usually talk about only in the beginner videos. Like in my time, in my collection, I use all sorts of like pots, self-watering pots. Along the years, I tried all sorts of potting mediums and growing orchids in many different ways because it's just fun, you know. You cannot, like, after a few years, you want to experiment. You want to see if you discover a new thing nobody discovered. I don't know, it's just fun. In the end, we might not discover new ways of growing. In the end, we might discover ways that work for us. It's fun. But at the beginning, when you start to test all of these non-conventional, let's call them like that, ways, you're probably gonna have some failures and you'll be put off. And that's because all of these extra ways of growing orchids are not necessarily what the, let's say, long-standing norm is. The long-standing norm, which you will read about on the American Orchid Society website as well, is bark chips and maybe sphagnum moss, and the combination of the two, or media including bark chips, sphagnum moss, and some other airy elements such as pumice and other stuff. That is the standard. That is the golden rule of potting orchids. Why? Because it works for the vast majority of people, and it has been used for, I guess, 100 of years. 100 of years? That doesn't sound correct. It has been used for a lot of time, and there's a reason for it. It works. Now, there are other ways of growing orchids, of course, that deviate from this, but they imply some more knowledge. They imply some more bending of rules. And if you don't know how to bend the rules, it's gonna end bad. So rule number 2, start with the safe methods that you see in the beginner tutorials, or my tutorials at least, on the American Orchid Society. Start from there. It might not be the best for you. Like long term, it might not even be something you like or something that works in your environment, but you have to start from somewhere. And the best way to start is with the safest, tried and true, I don't know how the saying goes. The things most people have done for a lot of years. There's a reason for that. Start with that. Number 3, I kind of mentioned this again, but I will reiterate. These orchids are not just plants in your home. They're your pets. They will behave kind of like pets once you get to understand them. They will have their growth cycles. They will have the rewards for you. They will have their quirks. All of the orchids I have, they have their quirks, okay? This one might be very similar to this one. These are both Tutulumnias, but this one makes longer flower spikes. This one makes longer leaves. This one is more compact. I love more compact orchids, to be honest. This one has red flowers. This one has orange flowers. I love them both, but they're kind of different, you know? So once you get to know them on this level, they kind of start to resemble pets. You will notice that some, maybe varieties of orchids or even individual orchids, will not like something that everybody else likes. So you're gonna have to adapt a little bit for that particular orchid, and that gives them character, in my opinion. Wouldn't you agree? If you have orchids for a long time, let me know. Do you see these guys as a little bit like pets? Because I kind of do, actually. I have many pets that don't make noise. Yay. Rule number, I don't know. I did not keep count, but it's an important rule. Do not experiment or try social media hacks that nobody asked for, especially at the beginning. You know, when you're more advanced in the journey and you feel like you want to, you know, have some fun and experiment with something or just prove somebody wrong, you can do whatever you want. But at the beginning, just don't. You see something about orchids, I don't know, that you've never seen before on TikTok, just scroll over. 99.9% of the times it's just no, it's just clickbait, it's just all sorts of stuff. There are very, very little things you can take something useful from. Long form content is a lot better, in this field at least, because it explains the why and the how. You can see I can do a TikTok showing you, this orchid self-watering, do it now. That's it. You're gonna kill your orchid probably. It's how it goes. Because I didn't explain anything about my environment, about how this thing works, about the medium that I'm using. I'm not using bark here. I'm not using leca here. There is some further additional information you should know to make things work, right? And in many cases on social media, you know, most of the times it's just the wow factor is just the rage bait that started to happen with plants as well. That's concerning. Why would we be enraged about plants? I don't get it. So 99% of the times, social media hacks nobody asked for, not something you want to do, not something that will help you afterwards. You know, if you want to have some fun or just like be a little amused about the absurdity you see on social media, whatever. But at the beginning, please remember, all of these things are mostly absurd. Don't do them. It's not going to end well most of the times. Rule number, again, insert number here. This is something I would tell myself when I was at the beginning. Take things one step at a time. When you get into orchids a lot, you start to see like a million videos, which is great because you can learn what to expect, or you will have some knowledge already in the back of your mind through somebody else's experience, which is great. But you can take it a little bit to the extreme by trying to do too many things at once, and that's not good. That will overwhelm you. I know at some point it kind of overwhelmed me, and I felt like, you know, I could do or I needed to do all of these things, but I didn't. You don't have to buy 50 orchids at once. You don't have to buy 50 types like Phalaenopsis on Syrian. No, take things at your own pace. That's much better than experimenting everything and getting everything. It's really fun to buy orchids. It's really fun to try out stuff, but there is a place, or there is a time for it, and the beginning is not really the time for it, unless, you know, you find really good discounts. I'm not gonna go into the story. We talked about this. I bought a lot of discounted orchids at the beginning, like €1, €2 orchids. Deal of the century, I had to buy them, but I got a lot of them, and at some point, you know, it got a little overwhelming, but I pulled through. However, it doesn't mean that it's healthy to start this way. So you have a Phalaenopsis, 2 Phalaenopsis, 3 Phalaenopsis. Okay, enjoy them, first and foremost. Second, make a plan of how you will care for them long term. The potting mix you're gonna use, the pots you're gonna use, and so on. Rather than investing in new orchids, which is very tempting, use that budget to invest into the orchids you already have and make sure they are okay. Once they are okay, we can think about other orchids or other things. But first of all, just for you to have a pleasant experience that will not overwhelm you and like pull you away from the hobby, take things one step at a time and do justice for the orchids you already have. Don't get like 10 and like be like, oh, okay, I don't have pots. I'm gonna buy pots later for these guys, or potting mix for these guys later. I don't have an assigned place for them. I'm just gonna put them in the middle of the room where there's no light for about 2 weeks and then figure out where I'm gonna put them. Nope, that's not necessarily a good thing, so I don't think you should do it. Although trust me, I know the temptation is so big. When once you get into orchids, you want more and more and more. It's fine, but like maybe take it slow. Just take it slow. I promise you, like the temptation will last for like, for me at least, it lasts for like half an hour, and then I calm down and I'm like, okay, breathe. What do I need to do for my current orchids? You know, you need to practice this. Next rule. Do not neglect your pets. I know, or at least a few years ago, I don't know if people still say it, but some people used to say orchids thrive on neglect. Now, I understand there were good intentions behind the saying, but seeing thousands upon hundreds of thousands of comments throughout these years on YouTube, I came to realize that it's not a good advice at all, because people really do take it seriously and they don't even look at their orchids, which is not good. Most of the times. You need to look at your orchid in order to assess its health, in order to see pests before they spread out and they get out of hand, in order to see when you need to water in each season or in each corner of your house, depending where you place your orchids. You need to observe your orchid. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to intervene all of the time, which is what the saying refers to. Like, you don't need to intervene with everything. But I feel like it's not, it's a very simplified version of that. Observe it. Pick it up. Look at it. Inspect it. Look at the roots if you can. Do that at least every 2 days or so. Enjoy it. Enjoy the little foliage. Enjoy the little flowers. Just observe it. Don't put it on a shelf and like in 2 weeks you remember like, oh, I needed to water that orchid. Is it still alive? And then you go see it and it has webs on it from the normal spider mite, or it's full of mealybugs. Like, when did this happen? Well, when you didn't look at it, pretty much. Most of the times the orchids will tell you what they need if you observe them. You will see that maybe, especially on oncidiums, you have some crinkly leaves. Oh, it needs more frequent watering. Or you will see your orchid get super dehydrated even though you water it. Oh, there's an issue with the roots and it's telling me that no matter how much water I give it, it's still getting dehydrated. So you need to intervene, cut away the dead roots, offer a different medium. Maybe the medium went bad, maybe it's not appropriate. If you, like, I've been saying this for like many years. Orchids will tell you what they need. You just have to learn their language a little bit. And to learn their language, you need to not neglect them. And, don't set it and forget it. It doesn't work like that. Again, they're living things. They're kind of like pets. They have needs. You have to cater to the needs, because if you don't, you're going to suffer the consequences. And luckily for us, their needs are not all that big. Next rule, try as much as possible to invest in good quality products. Again, this comes from years and years of experimenting, of all sorts of stuff and trying all sorts of products, especially because I live in an area where we don't have a lot of diversity. So I tried a million stuff off of Amazon and it didn't work out. So as much as possible, maybe try to Google search forums or just reviews on products and buy the products that people actually really like. I always recommend products that I think you will like, and I recommend them based on the fact that I liked them, not because I don't know. But yeah, I will never recommend to you bloom boosters. Did I ever recommend to you bloom boosters like in the past 10 years after I figured out they do nothing? Did I ever recommend to you seaweed? Because I don't believe in it. It might work, but I just don't believe in it. After my experiments, I just don't believe in it, so I'm not going to recommend it to you. Did I ever recommend to you those dreadful little blocks of sphagnum moss off of Amazon that might be very cheap? No, I never recommended that to you. Why? Because they're not good, and because I had a bad experience, or no experience, no bad or good experience with them. It's just kind of a waste of money. So that's what I believe. So if I believe that, I cannot in good conscience recommend you something that I don't believe in, right? I only recommend stuff that I think work. And that's valid for the vast majority of people who leave a review or who make a video on something. It's what they think is good. And that's a very good place to start when it comes to buying good quality products, because it actually matters. You can get away with pots, right? Better quality pots will last longer, of course. They will be UV protected, but a yogurt can works as well, I guess. And I used to use them like back in the day, 12 years ago, I used to use them. It will work. Things work, right? But when it comes to medium, that's a whole different ballgame. You can get medium, which is already broken down or bad quality. I had a medium once, again, 10 years ago or more, that already had some mold in it. And when I used it with my orchids, like in a short period of time, I had a mold outbreak. Horrified. I don't want to have mold in my house, Orchids didn't enjoy it either because it was starting to burn the roots. I don't know what type of stuff that had. That was just a bad quality product. And there are products out there that are just not so good quality. I had a bad experience with chili moss. So because I had that experience, I'm not going to recommend chili moss to you. I'm going to recommend the sphagnum moss, New Zealand sphagnum moss, right? Why? Because I have good experience with it and because it works great, it lasts in time, and so on. So these things can put you down. These things can make you be like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I repotted my orchid, like people say, but like, look, it's full of mold. It's not doing good. There could be other reasons for not doing good, such as like some roots that didn't adapt, but many of the times it is the quality of the product. So you kind of, you're going to save yourself money and trouble long term if you just use the good quality products. It is what it is. And that's a lesson I learned, again, many years ago, 20 years ago at this point, with aquariums as well. That's a whole different thing. Like every hobby that I go into, I learned very fast that cheap stuff are not always good. More affordable, maybe mid-range price stuff, you know, that's a different thing. But like the cheapest stuff, it's just not the best. Not necessarily, not always the best. So I would just invest, rather than getting another 50 orchids that will overwhelm you, invest in a few good quality products that will last you longer and will give you an easier time with your orchids, is what I would advise any beginner. And the last idea that I want to leave you with, I've told you guys this before, but I do want to reiterate because it's something that personally bothers me in any hobby that I've been in. Elitism. That's how you pronounce it? Elitism, I don't know. Just because you purchase rare, expensive orchids doesn't mean you gain respect in this hobby. You will not gain it from me. You'll not gain it for anybody. If you have the budget, buy whatever you want. But if you don't have the budget and like you see like, oh, people are talking about this expensive Paphiopedilum, I'm gonna get it to like show off to the people on the forum. No, And especially at the beginning, that's not what you need to focus on. I have, and I'm enjoying in both of my hobbies, the cheapest things when it comes to these little animals. They're animals, plants, animals, you know, they're kind of, well, the same for me. I love them. They're like little souls, okay? Plants don't have souls and such, and like, I don't know. We're not gonna get into the depth of things because nobody's interested, and I'm not that deep, trust me, I'm not. But I get so attached to these things because they grow, they're alive, and I don't know all there is about them, you know, but I appreciate and respect the fact that they are alive. I've always had an issue putting a price on something that is alive. I've never sold animals, I have never sold orchids, because I can't. Like, at some point I was thinking maybe do some divisions, make a raffle, you know, let people enter for 50 cents and whoever wins, you know, I get my money for like shipping and maybe a little bonus if, you know, and somebody wins for paying 50 cents for an orchid. That sounded fair to me, but I still don't know if I should do that because, you know, I have issues selling live things. I have issues putting a price on something. My most adored orchids are my cheapest orchids. These Tolumnias have costed me 6-7 euros. Some of them were even cheaper because no IDs. The mini Phalaenopsis that I have, and you guys know I have a big collection of mini Phalaenopsis, are the run-of-the-mill, like some people call them lovingly, the peasants' orchids. I love them. I love them. Do I love more expensive orchids? Yes, sure. More expensive Cattleyas, you know, with the big fluffy flowers, absolutely. I love them too. But it's not a... Like, I don't put any orchid above others because of the price or the rarity of things. I actually stay away from rare stuff. And I cannot tell you how many times people here in Cyprus, on the island, told me, oh, I'm gonna bring you this orchid from the mountains, or this orchid, like, look, I got an orchid from the wild. I don't want it. I don't want it. It's not about the rarity. It's not about having something that nobody has for me, which I can see somebody, you know, taking pride in that. That's a whole different thing. But there are so many nuances to this that I don't want to promote. I don't want to promote elitism. I'm afraid that this hobby will burn itself if that happens. So as much influence as I have, I'm going to use it in not promoting elitism. I'm sorry, I just can't. Enjoy your orchid no matter what it is. If you don't have money for a Cattleya, a Vanda, whatever, get something that is within your price range. Budget it. I do that all the time, even with my aquariums. I budget something for months, you know, if I don't have the money there, then and there. Again, with the fish that I have in my aquariums, I'm not going to go into the details. Yeah, I had some expensive fish in my life, but I'm enjoying now the cheapest fish at the pet shop. Why? I don't know. I'm enjoying them. I cannot put a price on these fish from the point of view of enjoyment. And you shouldn't put a price on orchids from the point of view of enjoyment either. The nursery will do the pricing, right? But do not buy orchids regarding price, rarity, and so on. Buy what you can. All of these orchids will be absolutely lovely. All of them, all of them. I have to show you. Let's end the video with this note. I just have to show you. Ta-da! Oops. Let's show the people. This is my Rhyncholalia digbyana. I've had her for 5 years. She never bloomed, and now she bloomed. And I'm so happy because she smells wonderful. She's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so happy to have her and to see her for the very first time because I took care of her for so long. Now, this orchid is more expensive than the Tolumnias. Not by much. Don't expect, like, I paid 20 euros for this, something like that, 5 years ago. But you know what? No matter how happy I am to see this plant in bloom, I can never choose between this little Tolumnia and this one. I can't choose. They're both absolutely lovely. They're both my children, and I will take care of both in the same way. And I strongly believe that is a good mentality to have with orchids, because I don't want anybody to feel bad ever in my community if they can't afford orchids. Well, that was an unexpected turn of events. I have tears on my shirt now and I have to film other videos. How am I gonna explain that? Anyway, what I was trying to tell you guys is that it doesn't matter what orchids you have. Orchids are orchids. There is no orchid better than the other, no matter what anybody says, honestly. I do not care, and you shouldn't care either, no matter how important these people in the business are. If it brings you joy, if you like it, then it's the most important orchid in the world. And that's all there is to it. The price doesn't matter, the species doesn't matter, the fact that it's a hybrid or a species doesn't matter. What matters is it brings you joy. And I think we should end it here because I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, it's the end of the year. Yeah, the end of another year doing videos, and I'm so happy that I get to do this. And I hope to see you again on my channel next year as well, and we have another wonderful orchid year. Right, so that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today and listening to my blabs and this recap for beginners that maybe in the end is not only for beginners, I guess. And thank you so much, rePotme, for, well, literally sticking by me and like really making a difference. Absolutely. Thank you for sticking by me in the pandemic era and just with everything. I'm so grateful. So once again, thank you, rePotme. Thank you guys. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye.